Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I want to acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolve that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on June 22nd, 2026 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Doyle. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have no delegations this evening. I'll move to open public hearing request for variation PC 46-26 Lang at 525 Royal Road North. I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in favor of this application. Again, I'll ask if anyone is here to speak in favor of this application. I'll ask if anyone is here to speak against this application. Anyone here to speak against this application? Anyone with questions on this application? And I see that we have no correspondence on this application. Okay, then I will ask for a motion to close this public hearing. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 46-26 Lang at 525 Royal Road now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council in front of you, you'll see a request for violation with the applicant Lindsay Lang, file number PC 46-26. And the issue is just to vary the front yard requirement, which is part of the bylaw of 7.5 meters down to 2.9 meters. The applicant is applying for variation to vary the front yard requirement. As I indicated, the owner would like to build a new deck off the front of the house to replace deteriorating stairs. In your package, you'll see the site plan and a sketch of the drawing for your information. The building is in an R1, residential single family dwelling zone, thus the need for the variation request. The application has been circulated to various city departments. There were no concerns, as well as usual public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius. And as you can see, there's been no objections. With that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Lindsay Lang to vary the front yard requirement of 7.5 meters down to 2.9 meters at the property known as 525 Royal Road North, which is legally described as lots 711-712 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments from council? No? Pretty straightforward. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. I'll now open public hearing request for conditional use PC 49-26 Nichols at 124 Lorne Avenue East. I'll ask if anyone is here to speak in favor of this application. If you just want to come to the mic, state your name for the record.
Good evening. Name's Tim Nichols. I'm the owner of the property. Yeah, so what my idea is to convert that 24 by 24 garage into additional living space for my mother-in-law. She's elderly, but we still live in an up-down. We share the residence with her. We live up-down. Laundry downstairs, be probably 2 years ago. She tripped with laundry going downstairs. She caught herself, but being her age, that it's an issue. So this was our idea she still wants to live on her own, but we all need our own space too. So this was an idea that we came with, was to convert that into a additional living unit, a 1-bedroom property with access to the property The main access to the property would be from the back lane, which is kept open year-round because of the 8-plex behind it. I meet all the requirements to transform that into a single floor, and yeah, just to put water and sewer if I decide to go that route for, yeah, just to tie it into the existing house.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Nichols? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Nichols, for showing up tonight. And really, I really appreciate you coming to council on this. And the first question I just kind of have for you is that you're the owner of the residence right now, and the current use of that residence is?
Right now, it's rented out upstairs to a single mom, and so I wasn't gonna find another place for her until this was confirmed, because I don't want to displace her until we confirm that I can go ahead with this. So
Okay, so right now you're not, it's not your primary residence?
it's not my primary residence, no.
And you said there's 2 apartments in there?
No, it's just an up-down bi-level. Like there's, so
Sure.
the house that
Sorry.
I'm currently living in
No,
right now.
not the one you're currently living in right now. Sorry, this property right here.
Yes.
So this house is what, just one, like a single family?
Yeah,
lives
it's a
there?
single family there with well, I mean, it's a basement bi-level, right? So like there's an up-down, there's just like a regular bi-level house.
Right, but there's just one family. It's just a
Yeah,
one
it's just
family.
one
unit. It's
family.
not built into 2 apartments or 2 units.
Well, there is 2 units, but they're, it's just a single family that lives there.
But, sorry, just to clarify, so you're saying that right now you could rent out both spots? Like
Yeah,
they're
just
in
like a regular bi-level, you could convert it to rent out up and down.
Right.
Yeah.
sorry, is it currently 2 rentals now? Is each one self-contained, its own
Yes,
self-contained
they're
unit?
self-contained, but I mean, it's not a legal basement, so it's not rented out.
Oh,
Okay. Sorry, thank you for that clarification, and certainly I admire your motives in certainly caring for an elderly mother. I think that that certainly shows a lot of care. Secondly, are you aware of should council approve it, are you aware of the secondary suite standards that apply to that location, and have they met all of them? Do you have plans already set up?
Yeah, when I went to the building planning district, I met everything that required for that. As far as I'm aware, they gave me a breakdown of what was needed, and as far as I was under the impression that I've met everything that was the requirements for that place.
Okay, and I know, of course, that this drawing, Your Worship, is not to scale, but obviously when it talks about the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, sorry, the secondary suite can only be 40% of the principal dwelling. You mentioned it was a double garage?
Yeah, it's a 24 by 24, which is 576 square feet. And I think that met the minimum.
Okay. So it's within the 40% is what you're saying? And
yeah,
you've
'cause I
already,
think
you've
it
already done your
was-
diligence
Yeah,
through
I
the
think it was
planning
like
district.
568 or 572 is minimum square foot.
And currently you don't live in it now?
Correct.
And you are planning on moving into it, just to clarify, or what is?
Yeah, if this goes ahead, then we will move into that residence. Or the plan is to move into that residence, yes.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. That's everything. Thank you again very much.
yeah. So, yeah, just so I'm clear, right now you live somewhere else with your mother-in-law, is what you're saying. And so what you're trying to do is move back here, and you would live in the primary, and you'd make a secondary suite for her to give her own space.
Yes.
And you're aware that the fact that a conditional use with a secondary suite, you have to live in this residence to be compliant with a conditional use for secondary?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's. Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Porter?
I don't have any questions, just comments. And I do appreciate the fact that you want to help your mother out there, and I think you understand what the rules are, and all the things you have to abide by. I'm just going to encourage you in the future of when you are starting any changes and doing that, just make sure that you touch base with the planning district here, just to make sure that you follow everything, because it's very important. Because somebody's living outside the residence on their own, and you need to follow those. Make sure that you follow to a T, and make sure that they get the inspections and follow through with what they tell you need to get done.
Like, are you talking within code, you mean?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, of course.
all the stuff with the planning.
No, that's fine.
Like we have a bylaw there with suites, secondary suites. Just make sure that you follow those.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Nichols? No? Okay. It'll be your turn shortly, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. We might call you back up if
Okay,
we have more
thank you.
questions. Thank you. Okay. I'll ask if there's anyone else here to speak in favor of this application. Okay. I'll ask if anyone is here to speak against this application. Hello, if you could just state your name for the record.
Hi, it's Patricia Bergen. I own the property next door. I was here a couple of years
Yep.
ago, and I just got the notification on Friday that this was happening. So, my concerns last year was, or 2 years ago, was it just being a rental property. The garage is basically really close to my property line. Because, and I've moved since then. And when I left there was, the upstairs was rented and the bottom was rented. The neighbors were okay. There was a few issues, but yeah, that's if the garage could be moved back, or just not so close. I don't know if I'm gonna fix that house up or sell it. There's a lot going on right now. So yeah, like this, I guess I'll have to be against it for now. I mean, me and Tim were talking just now about plans, but if we can work something out privately, that would be good. Yeah, but for now, I would just kind of leave it as against it.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you again giving your time, and I love the statement of neighbors working it out amongst themselves. We appreciate those
Yeah.
type of things. So,
Well, yeah, I don't do public speaking.
Yeah.
So.
does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bergen? No? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. I'll ask if anyone else is here to speak against the application. I'll ask if anyone is here with questions for the application. Okay. Council, is there any other questions of the applicant before we close public hearing? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for conditional use 49-26 for Nichols at 124 Lauren Avenue East now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, in front of you, a request for a conditional use with the applicant Timothy and Jennifer Nichols, file number PC 49-26. The issue is to allow to convert an existing detached garage into a secondary suite in an R1 residential single-family zone. The applicant has applied for conditional use to allow it to convert a existing detached garage. The owners will be moving into the main dwelling while their mother will reside in the secondary suite, allowing them to remain nearby and provide assistance as needed, is their rationale. Under the bylaw, number 218724, it does state that shall be only permitted on lots containing an owner-occupied single-family dwelling as the principal use and with a minimum site of 46.5 square meters. The applicant did previously apply for a secondary suite under PC 27-24, which was defeated, and the reference for that is not in your package, but the site plan and the sketch of the area talked about is. The application was circulated to various city departments. The only concern raised was that the owner does not reside at the property. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and as you can see, we had one applicant register their disagreement tonight. With that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the conditional use application of Timothy and Jennifer Nichols to allow to convert an existing detached garage into a secondary suite in an R1 residential single-family zone at the property 124 Lorne Avenue East, which is legally described as lots 7-8 and 15-16, Plan 24 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Espy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question about the permitting process for secondary suites. Now, should this get approved, does this stay in place perpetually? So let's say Mr. Nichols decides to sell this house in 2 years. All of a sudden, we have a multi-unit situation. Does it get monitored? Does it get reviewed? Or does it just stay on that property registered with it indefinitely?
Great question. That'd be a question for Mr. Gessel.
That is a good question. To answer that best, it would have to be, I mean, once the property is converted to a secondary suite, it'll stay a secondary suite, but it does not mean it can be utilized as a secondary suite if the prime residence is not occupied by the homeowner. So it's something that would have to be monitored. If it was sold, then I guess somehow legally, conditional sale would have to be noted that way maybe, or we would have to follow up as a plan district just to confirm that there is a home being occupied by primary resident, and then double check to see if the secondary suite is being used. I mean, they would need new occupancy anyway if somebody was utilizing it, because we want to ensure that the fire safety, life safety, all that is up to date.
Gotcha. Anything else, Dad?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just say that typically in these situations, they're really only found out by notification of neighbors. That's typically where we're aware that properties are sold. Municipalities are not. We don't really actively monitor for sale properties versus potential conditions, but often the neighbors are a bit more aware of what's going on next door, and so that's how we would find out. And to Mr. Gessel's point, yeah, they would have to maintain those conditions. If at some point they wanted to change this to a different situation, multi-family something, they would have to make the relevant applications to the council of the time to make that shift.
Okay. Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of questions as well, through Your Worship, to the planning district. One is the applicant has stated that there is 2 self-contained units in this residence already. If it's in an R1 residential single-family zone, how does that exist, or is that not considered R2?
Mr. Gessel?
Technically, if they are renting out both, it could be an R2. We can have, it should be a single family, so I can't speak to when it was changed or if ever was properly changed to a multi-rental. That would be something we'd have to go back through the file to look at. Initially, when Mr. Nichols did come in to apply for the application, we were looking at a secondary suite based on him occupying the home himself, not aware that it was a rental. So based on him living in the home as a single residential, when we looked through all the criteria, everything met criteria as far as what would have to be done and what may have to be changed. So at this point, the only thing that was non-existent was the owner of the property living there.
Thank you, Your Worship. And if I can ask another question?
Yes.
So just another question through Your Worship to the planning district. once assuming if council did approve it, and the owner does comply with the secondary suite bylaw in the way that the bylaw is written to meet all of the bylaws, I guess, there's an occupancy permit that's issued. And is the occupancy permit issued only when the residence becomes the primary residence for the applicant? Or is that even?
The occupancy would be issued for the secondary suite. So once that is completed and brought up to code, then at that point we would go in and inspect it, make sure everything meets code, meets all the requirements. We would take the fire department as well to ensure life safety is in place. And then at that point we would ensure the occupancy is met.
But they would, in order to meet the bylaw, they'd have to be in that primary.
They would have to be in the
That's part of the
primary,
inspection,
yes.
correct? Before the occupancy is,
So we would ensure they're there. I mean, we're gonna double check that they are living in the residence. But if they're not doing renovations to that primary residence, we're not gonna do a full walkthrough, right? But we do wanna monitor that people are living in their primary residence if they're gonna have a secondary suite.
would it not be a condition of an occupancy with it being part of our bylaw that they have to live in that residence before you issue the occupancy? That
They
have to-
do, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. Yeah,
That's what we're gonna ensure, is that they are living there
okay,
when we go to inspect for an occupancy.
gotcha. Okay,
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to quickly speak to it. I'm having a little bit of trouble right now approving this because the bylaw states that you have to be the primary resident. It doesn't say you could be or may be, and I have no reason to disbelieve the applicant in any way, shape, or form. What concerns me as well is that we have a secondary suite that's already kind of in this house, right? Which would mean that they'd have to close that off or have access to it. If my understanding is correct, that it's self-contained, right? Which means it'll have its own separate entrance and its own separate entrance, unless I was confused when I asked the question. With that said, I got to vote against it at this point in time. I see no other reason why we wouldn't approve it if the applicant was already the primary resident of that house and it was a single family house in an R1. So I would encourage the applicant to move ahead on that and then obviously come back for the approval of the conditional use application. So I'm not sure if I made that clear, but based on the information I heard tonight, I can't support it at this moment, so I will be voting against it.
okay. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to planning, if this resolution was to pass, for example, that secondary suite or the garage is what it is now. The purpose of it is now, and the design of it is a garage. In order for the applicant to move ahead in converting that into a secondary suite, would they have to pull permits and do all that stuff so you would know initially up front that this work would proceed on the garage to convert it to a secondary suite? Just my question.
Yeah, they would need permits for anything they're doing as far as converting the current garage as an empty frame, right? So yeah, they would have to come in, give us a design plan. We'd have to look at it to see what permits are required and what the extent of the renovation would be to convert it into a secondary suite, whether it's kitchens going in. As Mr. Nichols noted, it might be sewer water. There's a full extent of criteria that would have to be met.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship. Question to Mr. Gessel. Just so I'm very clear, everything on this application meets our bylaw other than the resident not living there. The setbacks, the individual that spoke against this, they're okay? They don't need variances or anything like that? They're within the bylaw of what not being too close to the neighbors, anything like that? Or I'm just trying to understand if there's any other issue other than the resident living there.
As far as we know at this point, everything is compliant. Variances we usually look at after the fact. When we're looking at secondary suites, we look at 8.7 of the bylaw and of the code here to ensure that all 12 steps are met. As far as size of the garage, so the 807 square feet, he's under that because he's at 576. So basically everything that we looked at through our bylaw when we do the application strictly for the secondary suite was met, except for living in the primary unit. It kind of gets back to Councillor Nichols' questions. When they come in, then we look at what other permits are required or what other applications would be required. So a variance may be required after the fact if we are too close to a neighbor's side dwelling.
So just my comment on this when it comes to the concern, and it was the concern last time that the owner wasn't living in the home, right, and asking for this suite to be converted. And for me, I am comfortable in the fact that Planning District has indicated that in order for occupancy to be given in the end for that secondary suite to be utilized was that the homeowner would have to prove that they're living in the primary residence to comply with our bylaw, if I'm understanding that correctly, in order to get occupancy.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Because it is part of the bylaw.
Okay, perfect. So that for me is my deciding factor on it, and the fact that they hopefully are not going to spend all the money, get all the permits, and do all of this, and ask us to say no because they're not living there. So, yeah, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious, Mr. Cota, you had said if the city doesn't really monitor what's sold, et cetera, and this would carry on with the property as opposed to the owner itself. Are there checks and balances outside of the occupancy permits to make sure that the owners are living in the primary residence?
Mr. Cota.
Through your worship to Councillor Doyle, because it's a requirement of the owner to occupy the space for this, planning would already have the rights to have the owner live in the premise prior to issuing permits. So that could be an option if they chose to go that way. They could also issue the permits but not issue occupancy, which would prevent anyone from living in that space, and it would be quite a substantial investment they would be making without approval. So typically you do see people meet all of the requirements ahead of making that investment, but there are a few options for planning to ensure that that condition is met. And if at any point by these owners or a future owner, if the primary residence is not occupied by a person related to that in the secondary, they couldn't operate, and so it would be pulled at that time.
Thank you. I will be voting in favor of this based on the fact that the application's been presented and the one piece of the puzzle that is yet to be put in is the owner occupying the primary residence. So so long as that's done, I'm satisfied with this.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another question, Mr. Gessel. If the individual sells the house, does our approval of the conditional use for a secondary go with that property to the next owner? So they could put a secondary suite. It don't have to come to council then, right? They've already got approval?
No,
or
my
how
understanding
is
is similar to any other secondary suite that may be approved already through the city. So once it's approved as a secondary suite for the primary resident owner, it's already approved. So if it changes hands, that suite's going to remain there unless circumstances change. They may change if somebody wants to reapply for zoning, or they want to convert it back to a garage, or they want to convert part of their home back to a non-secondary suite. The suite would stay in that dwelling.
Okay. Councillor Porter.
So this isn't a question, just to be clear about this. It's not the fact that you could rent to actually anybody that suite back there as long as the primary resident lived there, correct?
No. Our secondary suite.
Or secondary.
Our secondary suite has to be related to the.
It has to be a related person to the family, to the primary resident.
So my point is, so if down the line, it has to be a family member or somebody, if property ever got sold again, then it'd have to be family members living there. Like, how would that work?
Or
So unfortunately, we do put kind of the onus on the realtor in a sense, right? When they're advertising properties, we came across this with one other property, just as an example. It was advertised as a secondary suite when it was not permitted as a secondary suite and never was. We did have a conversation. The advertisement was changed. The individual that owned the dwelling came in, applied for a secondary suite. On we go. Can we, as a planning district, 100% monitor it? Not exactly. We do encourage that. I mean, if a secondary suite's existing, that it is double checked with us. Is this eligible to use or not before you're actually using something? It's kind of the onus on the owner of the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah. I think it's important to remember too is, you know, one of the main reasons that we implemented this secondary suite bylaw was for additional housing in our community, and also making sure that these secondary suites are up to code and safe for people, right? To make sure that they're being converted in a proper way and that we have a way of monitoring them, right? And so I think that is one of the key points of this, because we do know, whether we like it or not, that's not always happening, and this gives us those checks and balances. So, yeah. Any other questions? All those in favor? That all against? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has no report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you.
Further down.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. We have no deferred business. We'll move right into unfinished business, award land lease tenders. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey. We will carry on from our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. And colleagues, this evening we are considering again, since the last meeting, the awarding of land lease tenders. This is an updated report from the one we saw last meeting. And the issue is to authorize administration to enter into land lease agreements with Thiessen Acres Limited, Sissons Farms Limited, and Sponarski Farms Limited. The City of Portage leases certain city-owned land to third parties for agricultural purposes. These areas are offered through a formal tender process to ensure fairness and transparency. Maps identifying the location of the lands are attached for reference. There you have the list of lands that are being considered that the lease has expired on November 30th, 2026. Administration has completed the tendering process for the upcoming lease term, December 1, 2026 to November 30th, 2031, and is seeking Council's authorization to enter into lease agreements with the successful bidders. The tender documents clearly outline the terms of the lease and include a provision allowing the city to terminate a lease should the land be required for future municipal use. It was sent to the previous lessees as well as advertised on the City of Portage website and social media sites. The tender closed on June 15th, 2026, and the following bids were received. The amounts are shown are the annual lease payments excluding GST. For Area A, 155.2 acres, We had 2 bids, $23,280 from Sissons Farms, $31,000 from Thiessen Acres. Area E, we had one tender or one bid, $1,338 from Sissons Farms. Area F, 11.5 acres, we received one bid of $300 from Sissons Farms. Area G, we received 2 bids, $7,479 from Sisson Farms and $8,000 from Thiessen Acres Limited. Area H, we had 51.5 acres. We had one bid from 101,94295 Manitoba Limited, $2,575, and Thiessen Acres for $2,060. And finally, Area K, 5.4 acres, we had a bid of $100 from Spinarski Farms Limited. All the bids are past lessees with the exception of 101,94295 Manitoba Limited. And after submitting their bid for Area H, they disclosed to administration that they intended to use 15 acres of property as a driving range and have another party farm the remaining 40 acres. The lease agreement states that the premises are to be used only by the tenant and only for agricultural purposes. As the proposed use does not comply with the terms of the lease, administration has disqualified 101,94295 Manitoba Limited and recommends the Area H lease instead be awarded to the next highest bidder, which in this case was Thiessen Acres Limited. The recommended resolution is as follows: that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie authorize the lease of city-owned land as shown on the attached maps to the following, and I'll put these into the record. Thiessen Acres Limited, $31,000 plus GST. Area E, Sissons Farm, $1,338. Area F, Sissons Farms for $300. Area G, Thiessen Acres for $8,000. Area H, Thiessen Acres Limited, $2,060. And Area K, Spinarski Farms for $100. And these are all, of course, plus GST per year. For the period December 1, 2026 to November 30th, 2031. And that the city manager and manager of administration be authorized to execute the leases on behalf of the city of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to administration. Trying to understand the numbers here. So the original H was 29.7 acres. We now have the tender for 51.5 acres. And the applicant has indicated they're going to use 55 acres in total. You just provide some explanation. I'm just having a hard time with the numbers justifying what is the actual acres that we're dealing with here.
Oh, you mean between the 15 and the 40? So like here it says 51.5, and then here it says 40 and 15 of the acre, so that's 55.
Yeah, and your worship.
And then here it
right.
also says 29.7.
0.7.
H. We got some discrepancies
Some
in
typos
H.
in the report.
Yeah.
The attachments for with the imagery with Area H on it is the amount that is for lease, 51.5. Those figures that were in the report, I mean, that is what the proponent shared with the team, but the math does not add up correctly. I mean, they rounded, or they were looking at Area G, I think maybe when they wrote that out, but it is the 50.
But it's Area H for 51 for $1,500. Would that math be mathin'?
Area. Yeah.
No, but it says Area H here for $1,500, right? And then or no, it's 2060, but that's
Mhm.
51 acres for $2,060.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right.
Yep.
It's not, because 154 is 29,000. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 51.5
Is-
acres
is
area
the
H.
right
Yep,
number
that is
for
the
area
correct
H.
number. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 51.5. So the old lease was 29.7 on
Mhm.
area H. So why that difference?
This, I believe, there was a piece added on after the Lakeview. Like this was a new piece from the Lakeview development that previously had occupied buildings on it, and then this was amended now that that has been properly returned back to a farmable state.
It's just if you're comparing acre to acre from some of the other leases, it's a big difference. Is because you're only jumping up $500 for an extra
For
20,000 acres.
Yeah, and we don't, these didn't have any reserve bid amounts on them, so they're just open for bid. So what we get back in return is what we present to council, so it would be in the,
So just to
Bidder's
confirm,
option.
in the chart, right, that says
the chart is
the
the
chart,
correct.
those are the correct. Okay. Everybody good with that? Councillor Massey?
Okay, so we're dealing with 51.5 acres and the recommendation is that we are not awarding it to the one, to the highest, that gave the most money to the city, but the lower amount for Thiessen because, so my second question then is it clear these leases, it is strictly agriculture? There's no wording in there dealing with at the discretion of council or the city manager. They have to be for ag.
Through your worship to Councillor Massey, yeah, it is in the agreement that they signed that it has to be for agricultural purposes.
Okay. Any feedback then from administration why this individual wants to proceed with a driving range, knowing that?
I can tell you, I spoke to that person and they just, when I told them that it was for agriculture, their use, they just said, oh yeah, I didn't know that. I just want to go ahead anyway. So I don't think that was their response to me. So
Thank you, Worship. Well, then based on that, I would support administration's recommendation.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. First item of new business, award the tender for supply of janitorial services. Sir Finance, Legislative and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship and colleagues. This issue is we're awarding our janitorial services tender. As you know, the tender for supply of janitorial services includes the daily cleaning, window washing, etc., for City Hall operations, utility maintenance, water treatment plant, water pollution, library, and the new community safety building. This is a 2-year contract from September 1, 2026 to August 31, 2028. The tender was posted on the MERCS, the city's website, and the city's social media pages. We had 8 companies were contacted directly, 24 companies requested copies of the tender, and 2 bids were received. The tender has followed the procurement process, and rated the criteria was set at 40 points for qualifications and experience, 10 points for past relationship with the city, and 10 points for sustainability, and 40 points for pricing, for a total of 100 points. In your package, you'll see the 2 bids. Triple V Building Maintenance Limited, total of 97.03 points, and a bid price of $216,480 net of GST. Second bid, 4199651 Manitoba Limited Taylor Janitorial, was 90.51 points for a bid price of $217,250.08. Triple V Building Maintenance has provided cleaning services for the last 2 contracts and have done a very good job. The total 2-year contract value is $216,480 net of GST, with the to amounts subject to CPI as outlined in the tender. The annual cost is $108,240 per year net of GST. Each facility has its own budget for this work, and any cost charges will be accounted for when preparing the annual operating budget. So this will be a new cost for the community safety building, but administration has accounted for the increase within existing operating budget for the remainder of 2026. The recommendation is that Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award the contract supply of janitorial services -26 OPS 02025 to Triple V Building Maintenance Limited for the tendered price of $216,480 net of GST.
And I so move.
I move that, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? Councillor Massey?
Just a quick question, just for the record. I know you've been satisfied with their work, it says in the report. No issues that you've encountered, so administration is just very comfortable awarding the new contract to them.
Through your worship to Councillor Massey, yep, we have had a really good experience with this company, and we've had no concerns, so we're happy to recommend them again moving forward.
All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, next item, new business, authorization to sell surplus 2005 E1 Typhoon pumper. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. The issue this evening is to attain council approval for the sale of the city's surplus 2005 E1 Typhoon pumper, establish a reserve bid, and authorize the city manager to complete the sale, including consideration of bids received below the reserve bid where deemed to be in the city's best interests. With the purchase, as you know, we did a replacement of the pumper truck from the city of Dauphin in 2025. The city's 2005 E1 Typhoon pumper is no longer required for operational purposes and has been declared surplus. Previous efforts to sell the vehicle resulted in a single offer of $30,000. Administration intends to market the vehicle through GovDeals, an online government surplus auction platform that provides access to a broad North American market of potential purchasers. This approach is expected to maximize our exposure and increase the likelihood of obtaining fair market value for the asset. GovDeals has been vetted through the purchasing cooperatives, including Canoe Procurement Group, and would retain a commission of 6.75% of the final sale price if the vehicle is successfully sold. No additional fees are anticipated. In order to protect the city's interest and establish a minimum acceptable sale price, administration recommends a reserve bid of $45,000. The recommended reserve bid is based on the recommendation from GovDeals on a similar apparatus sold through prior auctions. The city's procurement policy states that a council resolution is required to sell capital assets expected to sell for greater than $5,000. Administration is requesting that council provide pre-authorization for the city manager to complete the sale provided the reserve bid is met or exceeded. This authorization would constitute an exception to the city's procurement policy and would allow the transaction to be completed without returning to council for approval. In the event the reserve bid is not met, administration recommends that the city manager be authorized to review the auction results and determine the most appropriate course of action, including acceptance of a lower bid where deemed to be in the city's best interests, without returning to council for further approval. I would move, therefore, that the recommendation is, and I would move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie approve a reserve bid of $45,000 for the sale of the surplus 2005 E1 Typhoon pumper. Secondly, that council approve an exception to the procurement policy requirement for selling surplus capital assets valued at over $5,000. And thirdly, and further, that the council authorize the city manager to approve the final sale and execute all documents necessary to complete the transaction, provided the sale is determined to be in the best interests of the city, Whether the reserve bid is met or exceeded, or following review of the auction results, the lower offer is accepted.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Massey, it's your night.
I know, I'm a curious guy,
Yeah.
I know. Just a question, a great report, but I just want to make sure the recommendation about waiving or the exception to the procurement is to allow you as our city manager, if it comes under 45, that you have the discretion to say, we will accept that bid. Is that why that recommendation is in there for the exception?
Mr. Coda?
Through your worship to Councillor Massey, that is part of it. The other piece is that once a high bidder, presuming it goes over that, and instead of having to bring the highest bid back to council to then try and award after the auction is closed, we're requesting that approval as well. So it's sort of two-piece. Usually we would identify our high bidder through an RFQ. It would come back to council. Council would award, but given the auction process, as long as we meet the reserve bid, it would by default go through to the highest bidder without any more input from council. And then on the other end, if it is under and we feel like it's still a good deal, we have a very limited window in which to negotiate that purchase.
Gotcha. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item of new business. Award the tender for the supply and installation of stainless steel piping and check valves at the water treatment plant. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, the issue here, what I have in front of us in the report, is to award the tender contract for the supply and installation of stainless steel piping and check valves for the water treatment plant, as specified in tender number 26 OPS 026. To award the tender is the recommendation for the supply and install of stainless steel piping and valves to the City of Portage la Prairie, to the company with the highest points as per the city's procurement policy. The tender was posted on MERC's website as well as the city's website. 7 copies of the tenders were sent out and 4 submissions were received. The tender closed 2 p.m. on Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. This work includes the removal and replacement of existing CLA valves and relief valves with new check valves and piping on 8 pumps in the water treatment plant distribution pump house. This work is time sensitive and needs to be properly coordinated with the water treatment plant operations staff to minimize impacts to water distribution, and only 1 pump must be worked on at a time. The length of time each pump is out of service must be minimalized. Hygienic care must be ensured as the work is in a potable water reservoir pump house. Due to the criticality of the work and to be performed, emphasis was put out on qualifications and experience. The rating criteria set out at 50 points for qualification and experience, 10 points for sustainability factors, 5 points for past relationships with the city, and 5 points for the schedule, and 30 points for pricing, for a total of 100 points. The submitted tenders were evaluated, and bid prices and points were awarded as follows. KPIC Maintenance Services Incorporated, $297,395.80, net of GST, for total points of 97.13. Sperling Industries Limited, for a bid of $287,830, net of GST, for total points of 94.47. And TAG Industrial, TMIF Limited, their bid was $298,102, net of GST, for total points of 84.28. The bidder with the highest rating has a lot of recent experience working with the city and has provided excellent quality, safe work at a good value. One company did not include bid pricing, therefore was disqualified. The total for the tender was the highest point rating of $297,395.80. The budgeted amount was $240,000. However, two other 2026 water treatment plant projects have been tendered under budget and there's enough money to make up the difference. So it is my recommendation and that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award the contract for the supply and installation of stainless steel piping and check valves for the water treatment plant as specified in tender 26 OPS 026 to KPIC Maintenance Services for the tender price of $297,395.80 net of GST. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Porter. Any questions or comments from anyone? Pretty clear. Okay. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, last item of new business, PDRI contract extension proposal, Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just got to get to this. Okay. Okay, this is from the Transportation Committee, from Administration to Transportation Committee. The issue here is the consideration of extending 2 contracts with Portage and District Recycling for the collection and processing of residential recyclables. It's the administration recommendation to extend the PDR contracts for 1 year as presented. Background behind it is that the current 3-year contract between the city and PDRI for the processing of recyclables was negotiated as a single source in 2023 and expires on November 3rd of 2026. The current 3rd-year contract between city and the PDRI for collection of recyclables was tendered in 2023 and expires on November 30th of 2026. Both contracts allow for the extensions up to 3 additional years. MMSM, which is the Multi-Material Stewardship Manitoba, is currently in the process of developing a transition plan to shift to a full extended producer responsibility for Manitoba's residential packaging and printed paper recycling program. Under the new plan, MMSM would take over the post-collection services, and municipalities would have a choice to opt in or opt out of the MMSM taking over collection services. It is expected that municipalities will start transferring over to the new program in 2027. Due to the expected changes, we have asked PDRI to provide a proposal to extend the contract for 1 year. PDRI currently performs curbside collection of residential recyclable materials with sorting and processing for shipment in their facility on Phillip Street. They also operate a used oil depot, oil and antifreeze container depot, an electronic waste depot, and a household hazardous waste depot. They also collect and process commercial and rural materials. The contracted cost for the 2025-26 year of the current PDRI collection contract is $252,045, and the estimated value of the 2025-26 processing contract is $242,496. This includes residential material processing as well as other services, including hazardous waste collection and electronic waste collection. Processing is being paid on per tonnage basis, so the amounts vary month to month. The 1-year extension proposal provided by PDRI includes an increase for inflation of 3% plus the 2026 CPI rate. This is an approximate 5.3 increase and is reasonable based on inflation rates. While it would typically be administration's position to advise council to follow the city's procurement policy and issue a competitive tender, it would not be recommended at this time due to the upcoming changes expected from MMSM. In addition, the proposal from Portage and District Recycling, Inc. appears to be reasonable, and the public appears to be very satisfied with the service they receive from PDRI. Administration is also very satisfied with PDRI's performance. In addition, the city would also be interested in switching over to a cart system for recycling, similar to the system now used for solid waste, but purchase of the carts was not included in the 2026 budget. So the alternatives are to extend the PDRI contracts for 1 year as presented, 2, to negotiate a new 3-year contract for processing or recyclables and tender a new 3-year contract for collection of recyclables, or number 3, any direction that council may provide. So it is the recommended resolution, and I so move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie award a 1-year contract extension to PDRI for the processing of recyclables, and also award a 1-year contract extension for the collection of recyclables with a price increase for both contracts of 3% plus the 2026 CPI for the 2026-27 year.
Moved by Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions or comments from anyone? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, if you know me, you know that I'm a big policy guy, and I certainly like to follow our own policies as a result of our governance position. I do understand there are exceptions to the rule, and in this case, I am prepared to make an exception and support the resolution as presented. To hear that administration has been happy and satisfied with their appointment, so it means a lot to me, understanding the future that's coming up as well with MMSM. And secondly, as a citizen, I've had absolutely no complaints, and I think done an amazing job in my situation as well. So for that reason alone, I will support this resolution outside our normal procurement policy. Just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Massey?
Thank you. It was just a quick question. I'll agree with Councillor Meyer. I personally have had great service by this organization, and what I've heard from residents is the same. But what? Just explain to me the 3% plus CPI. Like, I always thought CPI was kind of an inflation. Like, we had a report earlier talking about CPI, but we're giving them 3% plus the CPI. Like, I'm just not clear why both.
Ms. Jagoda?
Through your worship to Councillor Massey, it's just my understanding that particularly for PDRI, they found that, I mean, sometimes costs rise higher and faster than the CPI rate, and so when they evaluated what they would need to continue, this is the number that they came back with for that. So just based on their own assessment of the true cost of things.
The PDRI's assessment of costs?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Because then the CPI would follow in the next year, right? Like, not another 3%. It's 3% and then CPI, or? For the 1 year. Okay, perfect. Okay, anything else? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We have no items of old business. We will adjourn council at 7:03 p.m. and move right into committee. Call committee to order at 7:03 p.m. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. No report specific to finance. I do have a few committees that I attended, just update council. June 24th, I attended the library board meeting, and the big issue there, of course, is their upcoming next budget for them and funding. They're working through a business case. I want to thank our city manager and the CAO for the RM of Portage, because it is a shared agreement for sitting down with our library director to go through some of the numbers, how to make a business case to council. I think our new director is just not quite sure the next step, so look for that. It'll be at the next budget, and if we're all here, we'll be considering it. But I want to thank our city manager for helping our library director through some of that process. July 2nd, I attended my first golf game of the year, and I played like it was. I want to thank Councillors Meyer, Espy, and Doyle at the Firefighters Burn Fund. It was a great day, great cause, and thanks for carrying me that day. July 7th, I attended with Councillor Nichols the Manso community consultation on refugee toolkit that they're preparing, looking at helping communities with issues around refugees, myths around that, how communities can welcome them even more. So they got the feedback from a very diverse group, including from Councillor Nichols and myself, and the next step they will be looking at running a toolkit by us to see what our thoughts were. So I thought it was a very good session. Certainly a lot of what our council has been talking about, being a more welcoming and inclusive community, and I think this toolkit will go a long way to helping our community. We want to get it out there and make sure people are aware of it. So look for that, but I thought it was a very good session, and thank Councillor Nichols for also being there. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development has nothing to report.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of items. Sending a shout out and gratitude to the PRA, the Fire Hall, our Transportation and Parks crews for helping put on and set up the Canada Day fireworks and festivities. It was an amazing event, and the fireworks were fantastic as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And through Your Worship, not to put you on the spot, but Executive Director Kozar's at the table, and I'm wondering if we can get an update on the graffiti removal program.
Absolutely. So we do have our green team throughout the summer until the end of August. So that's free graffiti removal throughout the city of Portage. And we primarily paint over graffiti because it can be difficult to remove, but we will also look at removing it with different solvents and sometimes pressure washing it with in-kind support from the city. So thank you to our operations department. And we're happy to accept any kind of referral of graffiti. So if you notice it on a fence or your neighbor's property, feel free to call it in and we'll get them a waiver.
Councillor Espy.
I just have one more question related to this. As far as large garbage bins, who would we talk to about getting those taken care of?
Like a BFI bin?
Yes.
That's got graffiti on it?
The city, if they're city BFI bins, we do have a waiver signed for city property, and you can call PCRC and we will take care of it. So if any homeowner does want to provide like color matched paint, we're happy to do that too, and then we provide stock colors as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Tell me what it's been like. I know you deal with a lot of vulnerable population in this heat.
Yeah, so I mean, as you can imagine, anybody without air conditioning is struggling through the heat and the humidity right now. We have been provided a number of cases of in-kind water from the Bear Clan. So they had leftover water from the Canada Day barbecue, and they gave us half of it to provide at our office, and then they'll be giving out the other half. And we've also been providing like cold cloths to people, freezies, like any kind of cold drinks, because it's very hot out there. And yeah, it can be a struggle for people for sure.
Sure can. I think it's important for people to know during our open hours, the City Hall has a water dispenser that people can use right inside City Hall if they have reusable water during these type of times. So yeah, good. Thank you. Hey.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended a golf tournament as well, COPP and RCMP. It was a great day. It was a Bluebird day. It was and accompanying with me was Miss Lequi Jobin and Councillor Porter and Councillor Meyer. It was a best ball tournament, so I think I contributed maybe a couple along the way, but that was probably the limit to it. It was a wonderful golf tournament, and well put on and well organized. Also, I'd just like to remind folks that we're continuing our water main flushing, and as we work through this, it's ongoing, but please refer to the city webpage for your areas and times, and it's something to keep in mind. Also, discoloration, it talks about how to minimize that and what to do in case. So please refer to our city webpage for updates on that, and thank you.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to mention here the bulky waste collection that takes place starting this week, the 13th to the 17th. And I believe this is our third one. Residents can place large items at the curb during this time on the regular collection day. Items must weigh less than 100 pounds. Heavier items must be disposed of privately. And for more information, contact the operations department at the 2398346 number. The other thing I'd like to mention that right now we're in a heavy construction season right now on the roads. So those sidewalks and those side streets are getting used quite a bit, moving around from one end of the town to the other. Please be careful when you're driving down there. It's very easy to get distracted through all that construction, and right now being summer and all that, and everybody's enjoying their time being outside and driving around and using those mobility devices and the bicycles out there. It's great to see everybody getting outside, but please be mindful of your surroundings around there. And I know with the temperature of the heat seems to rise, so does our, we have the distraction seems to be higher. So please be careful out there. And if anybody else has got anything to add to, or questions to, for the transportation, feel free to pass them on.
Anyone else? Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to, of course, Councillor Porter. I just want to just real briefly on the garbage cans and the garbage pickup through MWSM. Roughly a year ago, I believe, we've been through a full year cycle of it, or very, very close to it. And although as a councillor sitting around this table, I was a little uncertain of the program, I do want to publicly state at this point in time that I'm 110% behind it throughout the course of the year. I've had many positive comments, and I do want to do a shout out to MWSM and of course to this council for taking the bold steps to make a significant change like that really has improved our community. A couple of questions I do have on it. One is just more for information. First of all, and I happen to just be a recipient of it. On my street alone, there were a few that were not picked up yesterday or Friday, which was our traditional garbage pickup day, and no issues. And I know that you hear the complaints about that, but they've called and MWSM has been really good in coming around and picking up. So my question isn't about that. It's more about where I hear the complaints sometimes that it's always MSWM or MSW, sorry, excuse me for forgetting the acronym, that it's their fault. And in some cases, I know for a fact that, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, specifically our citizens, but there are other reasons why they're not picked up. Sometimes legitimately they are missed, and again, that happens. I've got no issues and we've worked through those challenges, but can you just maybe explain kind of maybe the media could pick up on a little bit, just to kind of really quickly talk about maybe why they wouldn't be picked up, and if yours is not picked up within that day, what the resident can do to call or who they would call in order to get that to happen.
Did you want to answer that?
Sure, I could answer that. First of all, yeah, there are other reasons why your container may not be emptied, but there would be probably a communication tag placed on top of your garbage bin, and so in that communication tag would give a reason why that they didn't pick it up. It could be because there was too many parked cars around the cars, and not enough, didn't leave enough room to put between the two cars to pick up that, too close to a tree or too far away, possibly. Maybe they didn't have a curb. Sometimes it might be too heavy. for them because they shouldn't be any more than 100. How many pounds? I think it's 100 pounds.
There's a limit.
Yeah,
We can
there's a limit
clarify
on
that
it.
amount. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so if it's, yeah, it hasn't been taken out for a few weeks and you've got quite a bit in there, and yeah, sometimes that can be too heavy for the machines. The other one that should be, maybe it's facing the wrong way, you've accidentally put it out the wrong way, and, or the cart is overflowing. So yes, you got to make sure that you have a limit on your, like the top has to be closed when
The
they're
lid,
lifting it up,
yeah.
because what's going to happen is the garbage is going to fly all over the place other than inside the cart. But usually usually there's a reason, if there's a reason why, there should be a communication tag on top of it.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, it does. And I was just looking maybe for some information on what people would do if they do see their cart not picked up.
They would call the company, not the, like they MWM has a phone number that you can call to.
It does, yeah, and
Yeah.
our operations department as well is what's stated on our
Yeah.
website. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that people were
People
aware of
know.
what to do. And you know what? And MWSM has been extremely good in coming back to pick them up for whatever reason that may be. So just wanted to give them a
Yeah.
shout out as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, and maybe the media can pick up on that. And I don't know if you guys have seen the viral video that's out there of the young boy who was going around in a neighborhood and he was offering to clean those big garbage bins at a rate and making money for his little summer job. So I've been waiting for a kid to come to my door because I will pay him if he comes. So you could talk about it and maybe somebody can get a summer job out there. He was charging $10 a bin. That was it. And that was he was not of age to have a, can he work? Yeah, anyway. But that was his neighborhood job and he was cleaning people's bins. I thought it was great. Yeah, exactly. I can on the cul-de-sac, your cul-de-sac. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, it was great. Okay, Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Mayor's report, as everybody was probably aware, I was not at the last council meeting, so I just want to give kudos to my council colleagues here in administration for doing a great job while I was awake. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Doyle, for filling in, and I appreciate it. The city stayed ticking along, and even though I left the country, but happy to hear that. You did? Good. Thank you. Thank you. I was trying to make a sister city for us in Ireland so that we could all visit, but it didn't quite work out, but I'll keep working on that. Next time, exactly. Okay, if nothing else, we'll adjourn council at 7:17 p.m. Thank you, everyone.